Okay, so you're going to make a statement, you said.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'll make a statement
I'll
right
wait
now.
for you. All right, go ahead.
Hello, this interview is one in a series of interviews that Special Collections Section of the State Archives of North Carolina is conducting with the American Indian Heritage Commission to record the lived experience of indigenous communities in North Carolina. These oral histories will be part of an archived series and will be made available to the public. Today is Monday, July 24th, 2023. It is 10:34 in the morning. This is an interview with, if you can give us your full name, please.
Otis Kerman Martin.
And can you spell that?
Otis Kermitmartin.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. This interview is being conducted for the American Indian Heritage Commission Oral History Project. The interviewer is John Horan. I have Curry Bird here with me. Here he is.
Curry Bird, Director of the North Carolina American Indian Heritage Commission. Kerrybird.
All right. Very good. This video interview is being conducted in person at the Sappony Tribal Center in, what's the name of the town, actually?
Christie, Virginia.
In Christie, Virginia. Appreciate it. Thank you. So the first question I have for you is an easy question.
Good.
Where and when were you born?
I was born in Virgilana, which is about 4 miles from here, and March 24th, 1940.
March 24th, 1940. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was raised up as a dirt farmer. I lived close by a little house right down here on the corner. I lived there until I was 16 years old. Then we moved back to Virgilana. And from there, I got married in the meantime, and then we moved back to Christie, which is here where the tribal center is located. So that's pretty much where I was born and raised. And of course, we moved a couple of times in between Virgilana and Christie. But most of the part we lived right here in Christie.
Well, tell me about growing up in Christie.
Okay, well, it was Christie was it was a store there, which was what we called it, Walmart of the Sappony. You could go there and buy pretty much anything you want, in the hardware and vegetables and things like that. And a lot of the tribe would trade goods at the store. And if you had eggs you left over from your breakfast, you take them to the store and sell them, get you a quart of milk or a candy bar or a block of ice or just whatever you needed. And that's pretty much what they did with, that's what the store was all about, right here in Christie. And I, excuse me, I lived here we moved here on a curve. I'm thinking along about 1942, and then we moved to Virgilana.
And how long were you in Virgilana there when you're 2 years old at that point? 42.
Yeah, no. We were here. We moved here to Christie. Then we moved back down to Virgilana, back to Virgilana in 1956. Okay. I lived there 2 years, and then I moved here.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. So from 42 to 56, you're talking about you're 2 years old until you're 16 years old. That's a good amount of time growing up here. What's it like being a kid in this kind of area?
Well, you had to make your own toys. You had to entertain yourself. You had to do your chores, in which that consisted of feeding the cows, feeding the horses, milking the cows, feeding the pigs, looking after the pigs, going out in the fields and bringing the corn and wheat and whatever they were used to feed the animals with. And then as you had a little bit of playtime there, we'd try and make us a little something that I remember making a little, what they call a hoover cart. I took me 2 bicycle wheels and stuck me a stick between one and the other, and then put me a little platform on it. So just made my own little cart. And then I had a dog that was real close to me. And that dog, I would hook that dog to that hoof cart, and I'd pull him up to the store to get a bottle of bleach and a bag of sugar and a bag of fertilizer. I mean, not fertilizer, flour, and take it back to my mom, so she could be doing her cooking and whatever. So that's part of the growing up in here. And too, we had a lot of fun. And late in the afternoon, maybe it's probably on a Friday or Saturday night, some of the neighbors would come by with the wagon, and we'd all jump up in the wagon and take off to another neighbor's house just to have play games and that kind of thing during the course of the evening and that kind of thing.
No, I love the idea of building your own cart
Right.
to go to the store.
Oh yeah. Well, see, I remember my first bicycle. My cousin bought it for me. I think he gave $3 for that bicycle. Of course, it wasn't in perfect condition because it had a flat tire, and I had to patch my tire. And my dad, he always had patches, for patching inner tubes. And if I had a flat tire, just pull it off and patch it and move on. Yeah. And we would, use a little different little like pop gun for, just using those things for shooting at the birds. It never would get very far from you, but just the idea of it. Yeah.
And would you? What about things like restaurants, movie theaters, anything like that?
I didn't know this even existed until I was 20 years old. No, there was in this area there was no restaurant. Now, Virgilana was a booming town, and everyone in the community looked forward to going to Virgilana when the liver stable owner would go out of Tennessee and buy livestock such as cows and sheep and horses and things, and they'd put them on a rail car and bring them back here. And for them to get it from the railroad track, which was the depot, up to the liver stable, everybody knew that they were coming into town with a load of horses. So they'd line up, make a fence line, so the horses would stay within that fence line and run them up to the stable and put them in the stable. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my uncle, he run a little corn mill there in Virgilana. And I went to visit him one day, and that night we went down to the corn mill, and it was about 2 days later. One night, 2 days later, the mill caught on fire and burned up. I said, "Oh Lord, I'm glad I was out from down there at that time." But yeah, it was exciting. All that was exciting. Yeah, and when we wasn't cutting pulpwood, we were farming with tobacco and corn and things like that, and then we also would cut firewood. And when we cut for one, we cut for the whole neighborhood. Everybody, they get a load of wood, and that was kind of the highlight of the cutting. I'll get it right in a minute.
So, you talk about farming. Who taught you how to farm?
My dad, and my uncle, and my mother, and everyone helped everyone. Everyone taught everyone, and everyone per se respected everybody. I mean, my neighbors, they would spank me or take a switch to me just as quick as my mom and dad. So you obeyed and you did what it said. Yeah. And the farming part, I enjoyed it. We never had more than 2 or 3 acres of tobacco, but at that time, we may get $500 for the whole load of tobacco. I mean, crop, and out of that, we had to give the landlord a fourth of that. So out of every $100 we sold in tobacco, we'd have to give them $25. And which, looking back now, that was a whole lot of money. And one farmer, when we was in Virgilana, was farming on halves because he supplied, half the fertilizer and all his horses and plows, so we didn't have to use ours. So that's why his was half, of the instead of a quarter. So
And so in both instances, it sounds like you didn't own the land.
did not, no. My dad didn't, and I never did. And it was right across the railroad tracks over here. There was a family, Barrett. They owned thousands of acres in here, and we leased that from them. We farmed it, and of course, in return, we could go out there in the woods and cut our firewood. We didn't have to buy it or anything like that. And so it was a good life, and everybody worked together. Of course, there was quite a few little tales that went on during the course of my growing up, but some of them had some mischievous little guys in the city. I mean, in the town, in the community. So,
Anything you want to share?
well, I can share a couple of them. Right down on the road down here is one of the neighbors. This is during the biker time, and the most time they spent the night at the barn, making sure that the fires were burning and the heat was up, and so that they could, cure the tobacco out. Well, two of the neighbors, I guess it was neighbors, they would dress up in some scary type of get up, and at the time, we didn't have no makeup, so we'd go to the wood stove and get smut out of it and grease our face down. Not me, but they do. They grease our face down really, really good with Vaseline. Then you put that just the color, so change it from to a different color, and they scared him from the barn so bad until he just kept running around the house and told his wife, "All right, open the door by the time I get back around here." So he just kept running around the house to keep from those guys getting him. But that was pretty cool. And then they went up and scared another neighbor. So they was having themselves a ball. Yeah.
How old were these fiends?
They probably at that time they were like middle 20s. I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, they were pretty mischievous. And I remember. This was a little later on. It was two families that they, didn't fight one another, but they had the differences, and went to a church one Wednesday night. And one of the families took the guy's hat off the hat rack because you didn't wear your hat inside the church. That was a no-no. And they put it on the floor out there and just stomped it. Oh, that lit a fire under the guy that owned the hat. So they had a few words, but I don't think there's no licks ever passed. But they had a few words. But yeah, they would do that. But when Sunday going to church over there in the Mayo Chapel, they this is a good little story here. But the guy that my uncle, as a matter of fact, he had a horse, and I think he got that horse off the racetrack, because that was the fastest horse in the community. Well, Dad had an old 35 Plymouth, and we were going to his house for lunch on Sunday afternoon. It was about 3 miles from the church to his house. So he hopped on his horse, and we all piled up in the car, and he had got to the house and built a fire in the fireplace. But by the time we got there, that's just how fast that old horse was. But yes, it was pretty cool there. So,
No, I love that.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It was just little things like that growing up, and then on a Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon. I used to ride my horse around the corner over there to chat with a little girl over there. I thought I was in love with her. You know how to go. Well, anyway, so I'd get on my old horse and I'd ride her over there. And some nights we'd go over there. My sister would walk me through the woods over there, and that was so that I wouldn't lose my way back or I wouldn't get scared. But it was that was some of the things that just did over there.
Yeah, and so we talked about working on the farm and who owned that farm, but growing up, did you have other jobs that you had to do?
Oh, you mean, well, just chores, like I said in the beginning, like feeding the horses and the cows and that kind of thing. And when we were not farming, yes, we were cutting pulpwood or cutting logs, or we were, doing something. And the neighbor that I helped most of the time was on a Saturday afternoon. We don't want to go out there to work today. He said, yeah, come on. He said, because a lot of them guys out there, they want to work, but they can't work because I got to work for them. But you are blessed because you do have, and when you go to church on Sunday, you can rattle your pocket and get you some money. You can show them, hey, this is what I work for. So, yeah, he was pretty good with that.
And then what about other jobs did you have?
As a matter of fact, this Christie store down here was the owner of that. I was 10 years old, and I'd help all the community would gather there on a Friday night and get the groceries. They'd bring a list in, and I'd help get up the groceries, put them in a box, and take it to the car. I was a little curb boy, you might say. Or if we needed gas, I'd pump the gas for them, which was very little because no one had any cars. But I worked for them. The 15 cent kind of hung into my pay scale, because that's all they would pay me was 15 cents a night. And the first time I got paid 15 cents, I went home and I was so excited. I told my mom, I said, Mom, I got 15 cents, I got 15 cents. He said, son, you know what you got to do, don't you? I said, yeah, I'm going to spend it. She said, no. She said, a tenth of that belongs to God. And she said, he gave you the opportunity to make that 15 cents. Now you owe him 10%. I said, you do the math on that. So I think it's like a penny and a half. I said, well, now look, I can't split this penny in half. She said, well, just go ahead and give God a nickel and you'll be blessed tenfold. And that stuck with me forever and today. And I'm a faithful 10%. I'm giving God his money. I ain't taking his money. I might steal from you. No, I was kidding. but I'm not gonna spend God's money. But yeah, and I was that was the first what they called public job I ever had, was down there at the Christie store. Yeah, and they told a tale on this one guy in the community about the store. He would bring some chickens down and trade him chickens for whatever he needed, and the owner would just take them around and set them beside the store. Well, about 2 or 3 hours later, he'd come by there and he'd take the chickens, come around, come back in the front door, and trade them back to the man. And that brings up to, he lived right next door, which is right next to the store. And at this time he had a stable and a smokehouse, and it's just a regular farm house. And he had chickens. And me and the neighbor, we'd come up late in the afternoon after the hens had laid the eggs, and we'd find a nest. They'd be everywhere. And we'd find a nest and get the eggs out. And then the next day, we would go down there and trade them to the guy for a Johnny cookie or a BB bat or a piece of candy or a kit or something. But we were selling him his own eggs. So that's the only bad thing I ever done.
It's pretty funny though. Anyway.
Yeah. But farming was a good life. You never ran out of anything to do. It's always something to do. So.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So now, you're 16 years old when you move.
Mm-hmm.
How is the new town different from the old town? They're not far from each other.
No, very, very little different. Of course, Virgilana, it's like I said, they had 2 banks, they had a doctor's office, a drugstore, 3 or 4 grocery stores, service station, garage. It was just a working little town. And of course, Christie here, that's just a community, and the post office was there as well. And we used to work for the guy that owned the post office, and put with seed. He'd sell garden seed, and they'd come in by the train loads, and we'd have to bring it to the store. And there's another per se job we look forward to, and unloading fertilizer with the landowner would order and come in on rail, and we'd had the opportunity to. It didn't pass more than 50 cents a day, and you worked hard all day.
Yeah.
But,
for 50 cents a day, you're working
Yeah.
unloading seed and fertilizer?
Fertilizer, yeah.
How did you get it from the rail yard to the store?
Well, there's what they call a fertilizer house. We switched about as far from point A to point B from this side of the room to the other side of the kitchen, which y'all can't see that, but we can. And and we lay down a rail. I mean, not a rail, but a platform, a runner, I should say, and had little wheel carts, 2-wheel carts, and you put a 200-pound bag of fertilizer on that wheel cart. That's about all you want to roll, and it would just take us, at least a day or more to unload a boxcar load of fertilizer. It wasn't that far to carry it, but you had to be careful. And the boards was always breaking and dumping the fertilizer and it bursting, and then you get chewed out by the guy that's hiring you to do it. So.
And that's here in Christie.
Yeah, that's here in Christie. Yeah.
Okay, and then but now back in Virgilina, it's a town, you said.
Yes.
So you're going to. Are you going to town for anything? You going for restaurants? You going for
no.
The bank, anything like that? Doctor's offices?
No, we didn't, because we didn't have any money to put in the bank. Now we did go there for the doctor's office and doctor's visit. I used to love to go in the drugstore, and they had all little knick-knack things. And I remember very distinctly they had these little Scottish dogs. They had magnet on the bottom of them. And, you could just slide them around like that, and one would follow the other one. But about 2 years ago, I got to think about it. That was one of my little childhood toys. And I asked my daughter if she could go online or somewhere and see if she could find me some more of them little Scottish dogs. And lo and behold, she did. She found me. She didn't only buy me 2, she bought me 4. But no, Virgilina, it was, to my knowledge, I don't think it had a restaurant there.
No.
But then later on, it did. It's a restaurant there now, and but then pretty much everything else is gone. Half of Virgilina burnt down. Just 2 of the guys that lived there, they just love to see the fire, I guess. So they set on fire and move on.
When did that happen?
That was it started probably in the late 40s and early 50s. And I don't think anything burnt down since, I'm saying 55 to 58, somewhere along in there.
So in the mid to late 50s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just when all of that, they were, setting on fire here and there. And they, with my uncle owning, not uncle owning, but he operated the corn mill. And then after the one got burnt down, he just took him just one little grinder and kept grinding up the cornmeal for the feed, for the horse, and for food as well. Can we take a pause here?
Sure, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My throat's getting dry. Then I got to think of something else to say.
I was just thinking that they may be able to hear you moving your cap around, your bottle.
Oh yeah.
Water bottle.
Oh yeah, I know.
That's all right.
He's not recording it anyway on the video, or are you?
They're recording all of it, but it's all right.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure it'll pick it up. You just said you were transferring the audio from audio to the video.
Yeah, I'll transfer the audio.
Right. Oh, okay. But I'm just trying to think of something else while we take a short breather here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got some questions for you anyway.
Oh yeah, well I'll answer them best I can.
Sure.
And I know I've been jumping here and there, but when I think of something, I just need to say it. If I don't, I'll be forgotten.
Well, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, if it's anything else, if it's anything in there that you think I may have boo-booed on, then I can redo it, and you can redo it.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna try and keep this. I don't do any editing, so I'm gonna try and keep this
you don't?
one shot. And so, Yeah, but when you're ready, I gotta.
Yeah, okay.
You ready?
Not just a moment.
All right.
I'm
All right.
debating on.
Take your time.
John, from what my dad's told me all these years, my dad worked for whoever needed help, whether it was farming, whether it was cutting wood, whether it was helping his mother do whatever. He he that he didn't sit around and he doesn't do that.
And we didn't have any video games to play either.
It was all real life games.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, it's somewhere in there. I'll come up with some of that negative stuff.
All right. Well, I've got other questions for you. I wanted to know about the community, and you say you're helping your neighbors,
Right.
and everybody seems to come together. I'm interested in what's the racial makeup of the community.
It's sad to say, but the Afro Americans were unwanted in this community, and at the cost of some of them losing their lives, they still held on to what they believed, that as one, Indian stays with Indians, white stays with white, Afro stays with Afros, and that kind of thing. But that was and I everybody's got a little racial in them. I don't care who it is, red, yellow, black, or white. They got that little something that's because you're different. But when growing up, I knew I was different. I knew I was Indian, and I really didn't know why this had to happen. As to why did this guy ask me to leave? Why wouldn't he serve me at the restaurant? And then even into calling a half breed, all that kind of stuff. So let's get back to this, and then we'll bleed on into that part of it.
All right, yeah.
Okay.
Because I think that for me the question there is, you're talking about the pharmacy, you're talking about getting the little knickknacks, whatever else. Was there ever any issue walking into these places while you were a kid or growing up?
Yeah.
And so, anything you want to tell me about?
Well, are you recording or no?
I am.
Where you want me to start?
Wherever you want to start.
I guess I'm saying it was in the probably 55, 56. I hadn't graduated from school. No, 18. I got my license at 17. So when would that have been? 57? Yeah, long about 57, 58. Went to South Boston. And South Boston's always been a racial town. They just were. They never did welcome the Indians. And I went over there to a little soda fountain, a little hot dog stand, and I asked the lady, and I said, "Can I have a Coca-Cola?" And we're out of them. I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, how about give me a cone of ice cream?" And she hesitated again, and she said, "We just, we don't have it." And by this time, the manager had seen that I was there, so he came on over and said, "What's the problem?" I said, "I don't have a problem." I said, "I asked for soda and something to drink, and she wouldn't serve me. And I asked for ice cream, she wouldn't." He said, "No," he said, "we don't serve your kind in here, So needless to say, he said, "You got to go," and I did. And since then, they are welcoming the Sapponis with open arms, which that's a blessing. And it matters. I don't think it matters as much now as it did then. Well, as a matter of fact, to me, I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing or thinking at that time, so far as, you know, being Indian and being white. But this was in the 60s. I was over in Halifax, and I was delivering groceries. I worked for a wholesale house, and I went into this little store there in South Boston, and I heard the old man in the back. He was talking to his wife because she was up front, and he said, "Who is that in there?" She said, "It's the grocery man." He said, "Oh, that's one of them free issues." And I didn't know hardly how to take that as well. But then doing the research and finding out, you know, that a lot of our people were called free issues. And what that means, I do not know. Other than they thought it was something, but I didn't. So, I mean, again, I didn't know how to handle that. Then, of course, me and my brother and 2 or 3 of our buddies wanted to go to dance hall down in Virginia. Pulled up out there and went inside, and it was on. They didn't want us in there, and we didn't want to leave. And it's just times like that really, you know, but all that's gone, past and gone. They don't want to go to answer all that, not me. And it's just several little things that and this one time I was at a ball game, and this is on up in the 60s, pretty close to the 70s. I was at a ball game and got to talking, and I was pretty much a loudmouth when I was at the ball game. I was hollering at the referee and hollering at the team and cheering them on. And this guy, I guess he done got tired of hearing me holler. He said, "Would you sit down over there, you half-breed?" I said, "Okay, I may be a half-breed, but you meet me in the street." So I went by my car, reached up under the seat, and got me a tire iron. I said, "Now come on to the street and call me a free issue. I mean, a half-breed." So it's just things like that, but that too passed on. And you know, it's just some things that they said, "You know Indian," said, "You know Indian," said, "Oh, you are just a Afro-American turned inside out." So that too passed on. So I'm comfortable with myself because I could have made it worse, and then and that kind of thing. But then, for the most part, it when the school closed, I had graduated at the time, and that was I know the kids that went to school had a tough time because of the, you know, the way things were at that time. But nothing really serious ever came out of it. And now as a matter of fact, I could go tomorrow night and do a little presentation. Whereas 50 years ago, they, you know, probably couldn't have did that. Or 60 years ago.
Yeah,
But
things have changed. I'm interested in your schooling, so I want to hold on to that. But I want to ask you, how did they change, and how long did it take?
I guess with me, I realized there was no one on this earth any better than I am. And on the flip side of that, I don't think I'm any better than anyone else on this earth. And I accepted that fact and moved on. And if they talking bad about me, they could answer that, not me. And it goes on now, but it's more so in a jokingly way, or I make it a joke because I know who I am. I know, you know, and it don't bother me anymore. And it's still some now that, you know, oh, here comes that old crazy Indian, like that kind of thing. That don't bother me.
And to clarify, you said South Boston and Halifax. South Boston, Virginia?
Correct.
And Halifax County, also Virginia.
Halifax, it's a town, Halifax.
Okay.
that is the county seat
I got you.
for Halifax County. That is correct. So there's a Halifax County in Virginia and one in North Carolina as well.
Right, and I wanted to make
This
sure
is
which
right.
one we were
This one
talking
is
about.
this one this is in Virginia.
Virginia. Okay.
As a matter of fact, we're in Halifax County right now.
Right. I just wanted to make sure we knew where we were geographically. So I appreciate that. So let's talk about school, something we haven't talked about yet.
Okay.
And so, what school did you go to?
I went to High Plains Indian School. Well, it's really High Plains High Indian School. And in 1911, Halifax County, Virginia, and Person County, the tribe were growing. But there was a school in North Carolina, about a half a mile from where the school was. And then there was one in Virginia, which was about 2 miles from where it was at. And they were just a one-room school. And as the families grew, they needed more space. So North Carolina and Virginia got together and decided, well, there's a few more in North Carolina, more students in North Carolina than there is in Virginia. Why don't you just build a school in North Carolina, and we will support the children that's going there. This is Halifax now, and I graduated from High Plains, and we had a 4-room school, and no indoor plumbing, no heating system. We all heated with coal on a pot-belly stove, and we had a John house. So for the ladies and for the men, but there was no indoor plumbing. And then I think it was probably about 58 or 59. They added on 2 more. No, it was earlier than that. Because I went to, it was 58, 59. Probably, I'm just going to say 50, the year 50. They built 2 more rooms onto the school and added indoor plumbing at that time. And then in 1962, they said, well, we can't, at the time, the county decided that they need to serve a hot lunch for the children. Well, with no more students than we had there, it's going to cost too much money, so the county said to build a cafeteria for the school. For the school. And so that's how they, that's when they decided, okay, well, we're going to send part of these students to Islandsville and part of them to Bethel Hill. And that's when they closed the school down in 1962. And Charlie and I were talking on the way down here that we need to go to find where the one in Virginia is located. I know I've been there and I've done that, but it's been 15 years. There's nothing that was just a rock foundation, but I'm going to find it. So, and going to school there, we only had 1 bus, but we had to make 2 trips to pick up the ones in Virginia. The next one picks up the ones in North Carolina. Next trip. And every other week I would walk home from school because they alternated. 1 week they got to Virginia first, next week was Person County first. So they alternated. And when it was Person County's time to be first, I'd ride the bus home. And when it was Halifax County's time, then I would walk home from school. A lot of times I'd walk to school because I was on the second bus. It's just, and it wasn't about 2 miles. So.
But you lived in Halifax.
I did.
But it was close enough that it was quicker for you to walk than
wait
for the Halifax.
Then to wait for that hour for him to go deliver those kids.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole time, so from grade school, elementary school, grade school, middle school, high school, it was all in the same building.
All in the same building.
Did you change rooms?
No.
Okay.
The teachers changed.
Okay.
No, in other words, well, no, the teachers didn't change either. Same teacher taught all the classes, like reading, writing, arithmetic, English, and all that kind of stuff.
And where are the teachers from?
Most of them were from Halifax, Person County. They were pretty local, yeah. But prior to that, when we had those other two little schools, the Indians taught it, because at this time, if you had a third grade education, you could teach school. So a lot of the Indians, well, not a lot either, but they taught school.
And so, but you were not taught by Indians.
No. Mm-mm.
But these were white folk from Person County.
Yeah, from Person County.
Okay.
And there was one of Poindexter. She taught from the time I started school until they closed it down. As a matter of fact, yeah, she was there the entire time that I was, in school.
Well, I was going to ask you, who's your favorite teacher?
Ooh, male or female? I really didn't have a favorite one, to tell you the truth. But like the second grade teacher taught, first, second, then you went to third and fourth, and as you moved on up, and then I might like the one that was teaching sixth and seventh grade this year, but then by the time I got to that grade, she'd be gone or he'd be gone. Yeah. But it was interesting, and we'd always have box parties to raise money for different things. Have bluegrass bands come in, play, and so that we could have money to buy the things we needed for the school. Extra.
Did you call that a box party?
Yeah, box party. Well, we do the ladies or the girls would get something like a shoebox and fill it full of goodies, like an apple, orange, or a box of candy or something that they thought if their boyfriend was going to buy it, then they would find out he really wasn't supposed to be smoking, but she'd go buy him his favorite, and buy cigarettes that he smoked and have them in that box. And it's just, and at the time, he'd have to make sure he got that cigarette box, pack of cigarettes out of there before his parents got a hold to it. But then, you would bid on it. It's an auction thing. And it, and at that time, if they paid $10 or $15 for a box, they were spending some money. And, and we had one here a few years back at the Travel Center. And shoot, some of them boxes bring $100. And of course we had our football team. We didn't have no basketball team. The only thing we had was baseball and football, but it was tag ball. It wasn't tackle because we couldn't afford the uniforms, and the county wouldn't buy them for us. So, well, they didn't. They may not have even asked. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Did you play other teams in the other schools in the county or anything?
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
that?
We were competition.
Yeah.
But we really had advantage over some of the other schools because we were supposedly playing elementary school, and if you was in the 12th grade and you were a good ball player, you played on our team. Football, same way. If you were a good runner, whether you were in the 7th grade or whether you were in the 12th grade, you played on the team. But really, we were just playing, and their team were just made up to the 6th or 7th grade. I don't know what the time was on that, but yeah.
And was there a mascot?
I don't think so. No, was not.
No, just the High Plains School.
High Plains School.
Okay. All right.
Huh?
I thought we were the Warriors.
Well, that was the name of the baseball team. High Plains Warriors.
The Warriors?
Yeah.
Okay. But the football team didn't have a name?
No, it was just High Plains.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just all High Plains.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and then so when you graduated high school, you went into the workforce, right?
I did. And a couple of years later, well, I graduated in '58. I got married in '61, and it's been work since then. But no, and growing up, I had a good childhood life. I never had much. I bought one pair of shoes a year. If you wore it out in 6 months, it matters not. You kept on wearing it, and I got 2 shirts a year, 2 pair of pants a year, and when you wore them out, you got your hand-me-downs. Because I have an older brother, and I could wear his pants. So,
So before we get too far away, I wanted to make sure I talked about your family growing
Yeah.
up and your parents and who were they, what were their names, and your siblings and all of that.
well, my mother's name was Edna Louise. She was a steward, and my dad was James Kermit Martin. And then my dad had a boy. His name was Fuller Morris. And then his wife died, and Fuller's mother died, and Dad remarried. Then that's when he had 7 kids, 5 girls and 2 boys. Johnny Drexel, and then there was Virginia Moore, and Shirley Martin, Shirley May, and Susie Evelyn, and Linda. I'm trying to think what her. Linda. Margaret. Yes. Linda Margaret, and then Peggy Pauline, and my sister Virginia. She's died, and my sister Shirley has died. And of course, my parents died. Dad died in '69, and Mom died in '79. Mom died in 78. And 70 and 81. Yeah. And of course, my dad, he worked the railroad. He worked on the railroad 48 years, and as a matter of fact, the track that run up and down here, he worked as a laborman on the railroad track.
What did he do on the track?
He just made sure it was up and safe for the train to run on. And my mom, she was just stay-home mom, and of course she worked farming and that kind of thing. Yeah. And it was flashing back. It was interesting to see the change from the time I was born until now. It's going, by the time my grandchildren get my age, it's going to be another dramatic change. So
There's no question about that. You want to say a little bit more about that change? About the change you've seen?
Change I've seen. Well, one change was the segregation part of it. That part has changed, and the financing part of it, or the wealth or whatever, that has changed a lot, because all of my children right now make a whole lot more money than I ever did, and seeing that change, and then just seeing the quality of living habits on the living houses. Mostly everybody lived in a log cabin. Then they got into a frame house, and then eventually they got into a brick house. So it's really, if you look at the Indian part of it, as far as being different, we got all walks of life in our tribe, from doctors, lawyers, and whatever. But ministers, so So it's just that's some of the changes.
Yeah, I think, and then that piece about the tribe, I'd be interested. How did your parents teach you how to be in the tribe?
That is a pretty tough question. And I guess so far as them teaching me, they taught me, my mom more so than my dad because he was working most of the time. Of course, I was at home pretty much. Taught me some of the things that the Indian cultural part of it. And of course, Dad, he was there as well, but that's the part that taught me that hey, you're Indian, and this is some of the things that that the Indians do or did, and but it was not a it was not like a schooling thing. It was just a regular walk of life, and you took it and you used it. And right now, my mom's still talking to me, telling me things to do, and telling me how to do it. But naturally she's not here. But I'm just hearing the things that she did tell me when I was growing up.
Yeah, I'm actually very interested in that. If you can share about, I use the word teach, taught, yeah, but I don't necessarily mean class. I mean,
No.
you watched it happen, you observed it, or whatever. Is there anything you want to share about that? Any kind of story that you said, okay, here's something that they modeled, and now I'm doing it that way, and that's how I know.
Well, I guess in cooking, my mom taught me how to cook. So I do all the sewing in my house, and she taught me how to do that. Of course, I was the only male in our school that went to. I was in the home economics class, so that was some of the things that was taught to me, and I mean, she taught me that that naturally put God in front of everything, put Him up front, and that's kind of, yeah, well, naturally the gardening, yeah, and it just, that thing's just stuck with me, and I mean, right now I got me a really nice garden, and I think it all comes from Mom and Dad teaching me how to do it, and there's some of the guys that's older than I am. I mean, they don't even know how to plant a tomato, but that kind of thing. And chickens, I got me some chickens.
And this is something you learned. You learned from your parents by watching them, and then you talked about how you learned how to be in the tribe from them. How did you teach your kids to be part of that tribe?
Pretty much the same way. Right now, one of my sons, we work together. We've got a little lawn care business going on, and he calls me at least once a week as to, Daddy, this is happening. What do I do? And then in growing up, we just, I mean, it was just a hand me down. I never thought anything about why or what, but it all just it fell right in place, and it was just observing, and then again they asked me, how do I do this? How do I do that? That's just like in a lot of things around the house there that my son, he'll come over and we'll do, and well, this is the way I did it, and it works for me, but you do it your way. I don't know whether that answered your question or not. I jumped around a lot on that, but it's just a hand-me-down thing, and I that's the only way I can put it. And they watched and they observed.
And then how about sort of in the community, within the tribe, how are there elders you learned from outside of your family?
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well,
what kind of meetings were there? Talk about that kind of
well,
thing.
we didn't have any meetings per se, other than church meetings. You know, we went to on Wednesday night we had prayer meeting, and then on Sunday, of course, we had Sunday school, and we had worship. And so far as having a tribal meeting, our tribe just never did. Everybody kind of helped each other, and until we decided back in the 80s that we wanted to start having our own council and that kind of thing that we were having the meetings about, and then stuff like that. But so far as prior to the 80s, we didn't have any meetings. Excuse me.
Everything was done through the church.
Oh yeah. Excuse me. The church was a governing body for the tribe. In other words, if something went on in the community that were not allowed, you went before the church. I mean, they called you to the church and discussed the situation and knew why. And if it was a serious enough event, or not event, but if it was a serious enough problem, then you were dismissed from the church. Your name was taken off the church roll until you come back, beg the church's pardon, and kind of promise that you wouldn't do it anymore. Then you get your name back on the roll, because that was one of the things that you didn't want to do. Is your name didn't want to be taken off the church roll, and we never called a law in here, never. I mean, to my knowledge, until late years. But when I was growing up, I think the sheriff, I think they were even scared to come down here.
We kept it all in the church. What was the name of the church?
Mayo Chapel. I think it's the Mayo Chapel Christian Church. Am I right? Yeah, Mayo Chapel Christian Church. And then in 1946, they built a new church over in North Carolina. This Mayo Chapel was in Virginia.
How do you spell that, by the way?
Mayo.
Mayo? M-A-Y-O?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they moved over built a new church over in North Carolina, and they changed the name to Calvary Baptist. And of course, I remember going with my dad over there when he'd get off from work, he'd go over and help with building the church. And if you, they never did grade down nothing, making level smooth, because the corn rows are still under the church where they just went down and built a foundation, moved on.
I like that. So it's can you tell in the building that this is
in the
like
building?
This? Yeah.
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 No, I was just kidding.
Oh, all right.
But now, if you look under the church, you can
see it under.
You can see the
church.
cornrows, yeah.
Okay.
Because you heal up everything. Yeah. But that's I don't know. That I mean that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fascinating that the church became sort of the governing body.
It was, yes,
for the tribe,
mm-hmm.
and it was just for the tribe, right?
Right, absolutely, yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else per se was they just knew not to come by, and then of course in the late years the church itself has changed. You're talking about the things changing, and that's one of the things that's changed, and it's a good thing. Yeah.
Something else that I thought is a change that is interesting to me is we've used the phrase High Plains to talk about the tribe.
Yes.
But it's now called Sappony.
Not at this time. Not at that time.
Right.
The community. I'll try and clarify that. The community is the High Plains community, and it was called the High Plains community before they were even in the borders, Virginia and North Carolina. And then when William Byrd came by, I think it's some of Kerry's people. and drawing the lines, then it's still the High Plains community, but you got the High Plains community in Virginia, you got it in North Carolina. And as it is, we are incorporated under High Plains Indians Incorporated. And Sappony and we started working on that part of it in the 80s and on into the 90s and even up to 2000 is when we got it changed over to Sappony after a lot of research and making sure we were who we say we were. But prior to that, we were registered in North Carolina as a tribe of Indians, but we the Person County Indians, because a lot of the Indians were known as the geographical location, and that's what that was.
That's fascinating. So it's High Plains, Person County, and Sappony, all the same tribe.
All the same.
That's really interesting. Especially, I'm fascinated. What was your part in the research, in the naming, and all of that?
Well, I was a great supporter of my cousin. He headed a lot of this up, and he knew where to go to find out what it needed to, and did it. And then in 1982, they appointed me chief of the tribe. 92. 92. I was wanting to be chief longer than that, but anyway, 92. And what I did was just did a lot of research, and they come to me now as part of the history, geographical, and not geographical, but the genealogy. Well, who is so-and-so, who's so-and-so, who's so-and-so? Then, but as chief, I just do the chief's job.
So, being chief is, and continue to be chief since 1992.
Right.
So that's 31 years.
Yeah.
How does one become chief?
Well, at that time, it was appointed. My cousin was chief, first chief. That goes on record. A lot of people are called chiefs, And then with him being out of town, we needed a chief that's local. So then the council appointed me as chief. And since then, the tribe has changed the order of electing and changed it to his elective position versus the appointed position. And as a matter of fact, I'm up for re-election in September. And that's how that comes down.
How often are you up for re-election?
Every 5 years.
Okay.
5 years. And if I can pull this next 5 year stretch, I'm gonna hang up my bonnet. Hang up my bow and arrow.
Okay, yeah. And so while you're chief, in these 30 plus years, a lot of things have changed in the landscape, particularly being part of a tribe that goes across a state line, like this does.
Yeah.
Especially in the 2000s, there's push for federal recognition.
Right.
I'm wondering why that didn't happen here.
Well, we did what we needed to do back in 2000 and what, Charlie? 1. We sent a proposal in to Washington. They stuck it in a box, put it under the desk, and never pulled it out. And then last year, it's 2022, we decided to go try it again. And so we're in the process now of getting that federal recognition status. And it takes a lot of money, a lot of hard work, and 90% of the work that's done now is volunteer work. Yeah.
And those are the only 2 times the tribe has tried for federal recognition?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, we haven't. We only tried once. We're in the process now.
Now, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
The time in
Yeah.
2001 and then now, and
Right.
it hasn't
right.
been any other time.
Yeah.
Was have you tried working with other tribes to get federal recognition? Do you think that is that a way to do
well,
it?
you no. Yes and no. You need support from all the tribes naturally, and that really don't sway. If you got all the qualifications that they ask for, then even though one of the tribes may not agree, that still don't keep us from going, because we got what it takes to become chief. I mean, a recognized tribe.
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to go through the process.
Mm-hmm. And that's at the federal level.
That's the federal level.
At the state level, both states have recognized the tribe.
And they acknowledged, Virginia acknowledged it when they supported the children in school. They acknowledged it. They didn't recognize it when I say that. Like North Carolina, we are recognized in the state of North Carolina as a tribe of Indians. And in 2009 or 11, I believe it was, we were recognized by the state of North Carolina as a tribe of Indians, but we were called the Indians of Person County.
That was 1911.
Yeah, 1911. Sorry,
Not 2011.
not 2011.
1911.
19.
100
yeah, 100
over
plus
100 years ago.
Yeah, over 100 years. Yeah.
I got you. And since then, has Virginia recognized?
No.
Okay.
They are. You always got one or two on a recognition board that don't agree, and that's been part of Virginia recognizing us as now all of those heads are gone, and we're gonna go back and try it again. So it's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All of this work that you're talking about, the volunteering, the putting in this effort, and then presumably changing from one type of appointed position to an elected position, that takes a lot of time on your part. Where did you develop that kind of passion? Where does it come from?
It come from our forefathers. I respect the hard work they put into keeping us as a tribe, holding on to our identity, not just going with the wind or going persuaded to go with just be out there. Because you can ask 100 people, and 90% of them will say they got Indian descent or got a trace of Indian blood in them. And but if you ask them what tribe are they from, they can't tell you. But I know my great grandmother was Indian because she had long black hair and she was dark complected. True. Not disputing that. Not disputing sheep, but they just can't tell what tribe they were from. Excuse me. And that's just what I really appreciate our forefathers, holding on to our identity. Because if not, we'd be out there and blowing in the wind.
It's a great point. I'm interested in why it sounds like all of the work, all of the jobs you've had over the years, you've stayed in this area, in these two counties. Oh, hold on, let's let that go through. Okay, So it sounds like it seems to me that you stayed in these two counties, basically.
Yes, yes.
Person and Halifax.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think of leaving? Did you ever think of going elsewhere?
No.
Never.
Mm-mm.
How come?
Well, it's hard. You can run a dog home, but it's hard to run a dog away from home, and this is home. And I just never thought of going elsewhere or doing any other. And family as well, My family were here. My family is here. So.
No, that's great. And then you mentioned forefathers. I'm interested about your mentors.
That's where I got a lot of my, a lot of my education from. Not out of a school book, but experience and hands-on. And if you were, everyone respected everyone else. I guess that's put it in a nutshell. And our forefathers, they knew what they wanted, and they held on to it to keep it. And they did what they had to do. It's like I say, they just didn't allow some things to happen, and it didn't.
Like what?
Well, in a marriage, not in a marriage, but like married outside the family, outside the race, whether it be black, white, red, or blue. They tried to make sure that they kept their bloodline. The Sappony, well, at this time it was just High Plains Indians, to make sure that we stayed as Indian. And of course, that's another thing that has changed. It's all walks of life is within the tribe now. Because you got some that went into the armed service, went into the military. They married a girl from Korea. They married a Vietnam, different people, marrying different people.
So, and that's the case now. How does the identity stay Sappony?
How is because, again, it's like our forefathers just would not allow anything or anyone else to come in and take over. I guess that's the best I can put it. And they just held on to it. And then doing the research to make sure we were who we said we were. Again, that and people, they knew we were Sappony. They knew we were the High Plains Indians. They knew we were Indians from Person County.
Yeah, I guess, how do people still know? Now. How do your kids know?
Well,
how do your grandkids know?
The children, the youth, I should say. We have a youth camp every year since 2001 or 2. And it's being taught to them as of today. This past year we had a youth camp. And they're being taught who they are, where they came from, and not necessarily where they're going, but and it's being taught to them. Their heritage, their culture, their history, all of that is being taught to them, which I was not taught. That's the reason I said. And when I found out, who and really where my genealogy went, it's just over the years, and some of the elders now are learning from the youth, per se.
Say more about that.
Well, the older generation, kind of. I'm from the old school, and sometimes I'm a little leery about passing the buck. And with the elders, some of them they just didn't want to hear about what they were or who they were. But then with the youth, they respect the youth, and they're listening to the youth now talk to them about the heritage and the culture and that kind of thing. So that's why I say that the youth are, the elders are learning from the youth, because they say once a man, twice a child. Okay, so now that's being reversed. The child is teaching the parents now.
It's good that there's this kind of people are learning from both across the generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's good. Yeah, and so, but I do want to circle back to your mentors, people who taught you how to be you. I was wondering if you had any names, any particular stories, any particular memories.
Well, I guess Claude Martin. I learned a lot of farming from him. Jim Martin, which is his brother, and my Uncle D, which is, and all of these people, I worked with them, farmed with them, I cut pulpwood with them, I cut logs with them, and I went to church and worshiped with them, and a lot of in Howard Martin. That was another one that I used to work on the farm with, and whatever was to be done, we did it, and never expected to get a dime from any of that. So and now I ask my kids or grandkids to do something. How much you gonna pay me? I said 0. So.
And so those men you mentioned, they taught you how to farm, when you were growing up. What about when you're sort of like in your 30s or 40s and you're grown up, but you still are learning about how to be a man? Who's your mentor at that point?
I'm still listening to my elders. You want to say that? Meaning, now I am the elder. and what I'm feeding off of now is what they taught me years ago. So I can't say that no one is my mentor as of right now, because I am the elder.
That's great. No, you are the mentor.
I am the mentor. Yeah, yeah.
Very good. Good. So this question I ask everybody as part of these interviews: what do you think is the most pressing need for the American Indian community in general?
I would say that pressing need is to. All right, let me see. How do I need to put this? As to what they need, or what they would like to have, or what would be beneficial.
Well, it's open to you to answer how you think, but I think in terms of American Indians across the nation, what do you think is maybe would be the most beneficial? However you want to answer it, but it's for the general American Indian population.
Well, I would say if you're Indian and you are no, not if, but being Indian, if you work and strive to keep your identity, keep your culture, keep your, I think that's what they need to do. And everybody needs money. Everybody. I mean, them that don't need it, them that's got it, they want more. But I think that's what would help as much as anything, as to and working together.
And so that was the general picture. What about specifically for the Sappony community, for the Sappony tribe? What's the biggest need here?
I can't say that it's anything. Charlie may have something, but we are strong in our belief. We're strong in God's belief and believing in God, and we're strong in helping one another. That's been going on since our forefathers. And I mean, so far as what we need and what we want is a different story. We want to be recognized by the federal government, but we're not looking for a handout. We never have, and we're not looking for one. But if it comes along, we're not going to close our fist. We're going to take it. But for what is, as you know, for what you could do for the tribe, I can't think of nothing. Now, someone else may, but I can't.
Yeah, fair enough. I did want to ask you this question too. You know, we talked about how the church was sort of the, you know, the informal headquarters for the tribe, right?
Governing body.
Right. And how has that changed over time? Where are there more community meetings? Is there more of a cultural get together as opposed to the church seemed like it was more of a, like if you're out of line to get you back in line, whereas now are there more things that happen?
Yes, there are more meetings because we're on a different story, but we have not forgot where we came from. And we have not forgot that the church is still the governing body, or per se, but then we do try to separate them in some respect, but it's a way that you can't you can't separate them because that was the governing body at one time. But again, we do have more meetings, but it's different kind of meetings than what we had back then. I mean, we used to have like cabin meetings like 2 or 3 weeks at a time at someone's house, you know, like, and we'd go there and sing songs and worship and fellowship and that kind of thing. As of now, we don't. We still go to church, you know, and worship, but then the focus of the tribe is like wanting to get federal recognition, that kind of thing.
Are there cultural meetings now that you guys have?
Well, other than our, you know, council meeting and the cultural meetings, it's like the youth camp. We have put that in with that, but of course that's only once a year. But still, the and like powwows, we just never had a powwow. Nothing against it, but we never had it. And I think the powwows is something that's, to me, is just a way of making money for the tribe, because you have to pay for everything you do, then, you know. But we just never had a powwow.
Still haven't.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
We do the homecoming, we do the quilting, we do.
Oh yeah. But now we still have gatherings so far as once or twice a year we'll have a quilting. The old ladies get together, and then we have a fundraiser for the scholarship fund, the education fund, which is tree lighting, and homecoming. We have homecomings and we've had those since way back when. And our tribe, that's what we do, but we don't do that to raise money. We just do it to get together. You know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've got a few more questions for you, but I'm gonna see if Curry has anything he'd like to ask you.
Okay.
Hello, Chief.
Yes, sir. So glad you could be here.
Glad to be here as well. Glad you are still here. I had a question. I know you mentioned your family and others in the community farmed on land that belonged to a landlord. What did it feel like having to share your profit with the landlord for land that may have belonged to the Sappony at one time?
The way I feel about that is, can you cut it? At the time this was happening, I feel like that was the way of survival for the Sappony. When I say that, meaning if you didn't farm and you didn't own a farm, you know, where would you get your income from? Where would you get your like my dad, he farmed and he public worked as well. And in later years, I got to thinking as to, even though I'd never owned any land, you know, no farmland, that it, I don't know whether the landlord was being greedy in, you know, we having to give a fourth of the tobacco money, fourth of the wheat, fourth of the corn, all of that to be, anything to be raised on the farm. Even if we made homemade molasses, we had to give them a fourth of that. Flashing back, I kind of think that it just don't, I just don't see how we should have had to do that. I guess that's what I need to say. Because of course, but again, it was real life. But they, I don't know if they took advantage of it or what. But the ones that did own land, I mean, they got it honest, fair, and clear. So, and I mean, I've been told down the years that at one time that some of the Sapponis owned as much as 5,000 acres in this area. But where it went, how it got gone, don't know.
You'd also referenced that you were called half-breed.
Yeah.
Were both your parents Indian?
Yeah.
Was that just...
I was just a slap in the face, a slur, just a I
just
don't
a name
know.
calling?
It just didn't set well, so I got my person help, you know, to call them to the street.
All right. How were the Sappony Indians counted on the census? Because I know there were some challenges there with the state of Virginia.
Yeah, absolutely. It was that was. They were counted as 2 or 3 different. Like they were counted as issues, were counted as mulattoes, and what is it? Yeah, human of color. Not saying they were black or white or anything. It's just a person of color. And Virginia was one of the world's worst. Well, they were the doctors that delivered the babies and filled out the forms. They were forbidden to put Indian on there. They had to put something other than person of color or mulatto or something of that nature.
I know you'd also mentioned the county wouldn't buy you uniforms for the football team. Do you know why?
No, do not. I do not. Now, for our baseball team, we went out and solicited the local businesses in Roxborough, and they would sponsor the baseball team by, you know, buying them a uniform. But football, and that's why we couldn't play tackle, because they wouldn't get us, you know, no shoulder pads, no knee pads, no helmets, no nothing.
I recently had the opportunity to visit the old Sappony Cemetery.
Yeah.
And many of the markers are carved rocks. Can you say more about that?
Other than they didn't have the money to buy a tombstone, this is purely guessing, and they just had an art going out and finding the right marker and carving the name on it. And I'm sure you noticed a lot of them said like JWAK, Martin or Stewart or E.S. Epps and something like that. And no one knows who they are, because there was a lot of Williams and Johns and Sues, you know.
And I know, can you say more about this building we're in today?
Ooh. Well, this was our first tribal center. The opportunity came up for us to purchase it, and it was a dwelling for a family. But the way it's laid out, it really fits us to a T, and it just so happened that it was in Virginia, and it has created a little stumbling block within our tribe with getting some help from the government. Well, you know, you're registered as Indians in North Carolina, but you're in Virginia, so we can't help you if you're in Virginia. And but of course, we're in the process now of adding on and remodeling. We were blessed to get a little fund from different sources to do the work and get it done. Yeah.
I also know that some students from the Sappony community attended East Carolina Indian School. Did you?
I didn't. East Carolina.
East Carolina Indian School down in Clinton,
Mm-hmm.
the Coharie Tribal Center.
Yeah, I know who. Trying to think who was. Yeah, Doshi. They call her Dosherie. She attended that college down there, and I thought it was another one.
It's only because this originally only went to the 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
And then, they wanted to go a little further. That's when they went down to the East Carolina school. But I honestly don't, other than Miss Doshi, I don't remember anybody else going down there. But I'm sure there were.
And
Dorothy may know that.
And can you say more about the water bottle you're holding that has Sappony
Yes.
water?
This Sappony water is good for the body, mind, and spirit. Once you drink it, you don't want to drink any other kind of water. This is pure spring water. When they see me coming with a bottle of Sappony water, here comes the chief with his fire water. So, but no, we use this. We as economic development. We get it bottled and sell, and this is pure spring water. It's been proven, tested that it is spring water.
And why haven't the Sappony had a bigger presence in Virginia?
Virginia is hard to deal with, and they don't want to admit, or they don't want to acknowledge the Sappony. That's about the best I can do with that.
And then one last question. I know your tribal council is very different from tribal councils for other tribes here in North Carolina. Can you say a little bit more about its structure and who the representatives are on your tribal council? Because I know it's family names.
Right. I never thought of it being different, but our council is made up of 7, plus the chief, the chair, secretary, and treasurer. And I guess we just chose to get a representative from each family to represent the tribe. And then if I'm a Martin, I go to my Martin representative. Not that I don't get, I mean, I can't complain or to Stewart, Epps, Coleman, Charlie, Johnson, all of them. But the council just chose to, or the tribe chose to use that as a format.
And can you say the 7 family names?
You're asking a lot, Curry.
I know you're kin to both two of the names.
Yes, I am. I'm kidding. Well, first of all, the Martins. The Martins, Stewart, Talley, Coleman, Johnson, Epps, and did I miss Shepherd?
Yep. I think that's all of them.
That sounds like 7 to me.
All right. So I know you said earlier that the Sappony were different from the other tribes because you don't have powwows and you have other activities in your community, and I think that's just one of the unique things about the Sappony that really stands out is your governance.
Right. Okay. Well, and it's all volunteer work. It's all volunteer work, and I guess because at the time we started this, chose the council, that we didn't have any money, any funding. And it took us, we couldn't use the money from the water bottles to pay. So everybody just continued to volunteer. And that's the best I can do with that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Like I said, I just have a few more questions, and
Okay.
one of the last questions I'm going to ask you is, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of being Indian. Most proud of our tribe working together, staying together, and then that we've come a long way, and that and I'm just thankful that the public has accepted not only the Sappony but all American Indians. That is really what I'm thankful for, blessed for.
Excellent. And
Because, yeah,
go ahead.
no, I mean that was it.
No, all right. What would you say your biggest achievement is? Personal achievement.
For the tribe,
Your biggest personal achievement could be for the tribe, could be for your
well,
for your
my
family.
biggest accomplishment was being a part of, and they choosing me as the chief, and have continued to choose me as the chief, and I'm blessed to be able to do what my duties call for, and accomplish I guess it's just it. I mean, that's what I'm thankful for, blessed for.
Excellent. Before we close, I'm just going to ask you if you can come up real quick, introduce yourself on the mic, just say and spell your name and who you are. No, you're good. That way we can have it on the record.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm Charlene Martin, CHARLENE MARTIN, and I am the chief's daughter. I also serve on the tribal council as the treasurer. So I've been involved for a long since inception. Of course, I've grown up as such, but yeah. So sometimes I just have to keep everybody on track, of course. But yeah.
No, I appreciate that. And when he comes back, I'll ask him to close out, and then we'll shut it down. But thank you. I wanted to make sure to get your name on the score.
Sometimes I just felt like I just needed to, clarify some things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I appreciate it.
Well, and also when Curry asked about the water,
Well, go get behind the mic.
oh, no.
Get on the camera. Get behind the mic.
Yep. When Curry, you ask about the water, it is an economic development, but the source of the water is not far from here. It's Alton, Virginia, and there's 7 underground. Well, it comes there are sources. There are underground
Aquifers,
springs
right? Yeah.
that feed, and we have a company there who bottles it for us.
Nice.
So it is truly from underground springs in the area, not far.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It's a good idea.
And we, we don't make a lot of money out of it, but it's more of an awareness, public awareness that over the years. And once you start drinking it, that's pretty much all you'll want to drink as far as bottled water.
Yeah, I brought my own, but I'm gonna try some. So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah. Thank you. Anything you want to ask? No. Okay. I just wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you if there's anything you wanted to add to the record here while we have it open.
Let me see.
Anything you want us to know?
I think we covered a lot of the bases. I can think of something next week that I should have said, but I didn't say. But I think overall, I've covered the bases. I think, and I just appreciate y'all taking y'all's time out to do this, and hopefully my great kids can look at this and say, hey, that's my granddaddy, or that's my so-and-so granddaddy.
That'd be great. That'd be great. I appreciate your time, and if you don't have anything you want to add, I'll close the record.
That's it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.